Good evening. I'd like to call to order a council meeting of October 20th, 2025. Everyone that can, please rise for the playing of the national anthem. Niagara Region and Grimsby are situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendourong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and the town of Grimsby stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Davoli. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Davoli. Resolved that the agenda for the October 20th, 2025 council meeting be approved. All in favor? And that's carried. Up first, we have Ashley Whip, CEO and Chief Librarian, and Deidre Burke, Chair of the Library Board. They're here to present the library feasibility study. Please come to the podium.
Do I have to press the button? Yeah. It's the last time I was here. Good? Yep. Okay. Good evening, Mayor Jordan, Council, town staff, fellow library board members, and guests. My name is Deirdre Burke. I'm the chair of the Grimsby Public Library Board, and I'm here this evening with our CEO and Chief Librarian, Ashley Whip. A little over a year ago, I presented to this council, amongst other things, regarding the work of the library. During that presentation, I spoke about wanting to make educated decisions about the future of the library service. The board had decided to conduct a feasibility or growth study in order to make solid decisions about the where, when, and how of responding to the increasing demand for library services, programming, and resources. Tonight, we are pleased to be providing you with a summary of those findings. Next slide, please. In 2024, the Grimsby Public Library Board began the process of developing a plan for the future of library services in Grimsby. Unlike its typical strategic planning process, the board was looking to make decisions about growth and evolution with data that was rooted in a fulsome and researched approach. In late 2024, the task of completing the GPL feasibility study was awarded to TCI Management Consultants with Beth Ross and Associates and Bibliotech Inc. The purpose of the project was to develop a long-term plan for the Grimsby Public Library, covering the development of facilities and services over the next 20 years. Next slide. So the project involved an intensive public consultation process with stakeholder interviews, a community survey, which yielded a very impressive 466 respondents. I'm told that's very impressive, and a public meeting. Additionally, a benchmarking review comparing GPL with other comparable community libraries was undertaken, and a comparison of existing provisions with recognized library standards. Based upon this input and analysis, a series of options was developed and evaluated.
Anecdotally, this is some of what our community is saying. Overall, there was a lot of support for the library, its programming, and its staff. New residents feel warmly welcomed and supported by our helpful staff. Patrons describe JPL as their favorite place in town with a peaceful and inviting atmosphere. Visitors appreciate the library's wide selection of books and the joy of discovering something new. The library is seen as a true community gem, a place people return to regularly for comfort, connection, and inspiration. Next slide. When it came to the facility, the current library was widely praised for its character and its charm. However, some concerns were raised regarding its aging infrastructure. Many respondents highlighted the need for more functional space, suggesting both a reconfiguration of existing areas and potential expansion of the facility. There were recommendations for better utilization of outdoor spaces, as well as a corridor between the library and the art gallery. There were also concerns expressed regarding the accessibility of the washrooms. A key priority that was identified was the need for more visible and easily discoverable signage throughout the community and on the library site itself. So for library as a community hub, the respondents emphasized the library's evolving role beyond books, advocating for more community-oriented spaces. There was strong support for deeper integration of the library into community life through inclusive programming and outreach initiatives. Increasing partnerships with other organizations was suggested to further expand the library's reach and relevance within the community. For programming and services, there was strong support for innovative and inclusive programming, with suggestions including a dedicated makerspace, a lending library for non-traditional items, and additional cultural events. Respondents also emphasized the importance of targeted outreach, grounded in principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion. For strategic growth and collaboration, many participants indicated a need to expand the library, either physically or through alternative service delivery methods, such as satellite locations, kiosks, holds lockers, or mobile services. Alongside growth, there was a clear theme of strategic fundraising, focusing on future development. Overall, responses demonstrated broad agreement that the expansion or redevelopment of the Grimsby Public Library is essential, or at least highly desirable, to meet community needs. In terms of governing and staffing, as expected, growth and change require a supporting infrastructure. Respondents highlighted the need to hire more staff for new positions to support the library's evolving mission and to alleviate pressure on current staff. Additionally, there was also an emphasis on proactive rather than reactive leadership to guide the library through these changes.
So individuals were asked about community perception and engagement. So respondents felt the library needed increased visibility and engagement in order to be a true community hub. There were some who expressed feelings of missed opportunity regarding integration with the Peach King Centre reno or other developments in Grimsby. And there was an emphasis on the need for increased marketing and stronger promotion. There was a strong agreement about the need to expand, especially to accommodate potential population growth. Many felt that the current library site may have opportunities for increased physical expansion itself, inside and out. As well, there was a suggestion for future consideration of an additional site in areas of this increased population growth. Regarding future programming and functional space needs, as our library has evolved and the social definition of library services has changed, the community remarked on the demand for more programming space, quiet study rooms, meeting rooms, especially in our community where individuals work from home or they have need for a remote workspace. Individuals identified current challenges of fitting programming into our current space, for example, our children's programming, our March break activities, our author series, and other events. Next slide, please. Alternative service models is a very hot topic. It's very trending. So as our community grows, there's an increased interest in satellite services like bookmobiles, hold lockers, vending-style kiosks, pop-up libraries. The individuals who were surveyed suggested locations like Grimsby on the Lake, the YMCA, the GO Station, Southwood Park, or West Lincoln Hospital. These alternative service options were seen as a way of bringing library resources closer to residents who may have difficulty visiting the main branch due to distance, mobility issues, or time constraints. Respondents felt that by offering services outside the traditional library space and operating hours, the library could serve more people without immediately needing a larger area.
Now it comes to the benchmarking results. So a review was conducted of 11 other libraries comparing staffing size, physical space, and municipal contributions. So these libraries were Stratford, East Gwillimbury, Whitechurch Stouffville, Huntsville, Woodstock, Owen Sound, Port Colborne, Thorold, Orangeville, Niagara-on-the-Lake, and Brockville. These libraries were selected due to their similar population size, their branch configuration, or because they are neighbors in the Niagara region. So of this benchmarking, GPL scored 9 of 12, or third last for staffing size with a complement of 0.39 FTEs per 1,000 population, compared to the average of 0.5. That translates to a deficit of 4 full-time FTEs. GPL was also third last for physical space with 0.59 square foot per capita compared to the average of 0.72 square feet. And GPL was last for municipal support per capita with $37.74 compared to an average of $59.99. So that is $22.25 below the average. With the comparison against library standards, the review examined net library square footage, hours and days of operation, collection size, user seating, and staff complement relative to the current population. From this, GPL was found to be deficient in square footage, user seating, and staff complement. There is a current shortfall of approximately 12,000 square feet. If this goes unaddressed, this shortfall is projected to increase to 15,000 square feet by 2035 and to 27,000 square feet by 2045. While the study advises caution with these growth projections, there is a strong likelihood that they may need upward revision. Consequently, the growth estimates used are considered to be conservative. So here's a look at the library statistics from January to June 2005 versus January to June 2024. So as you can see, our library continues to evolve. So from January to June 2025, the number of programs increased by 137 compared to the same period in 2024. Our program attendance grew by 3,989 participants, and the gate count rose by 3,401 visits. While new library card registrations were slightly lower than in 2024, the number of active users increased by 571. These positive trends highlight the growing demand for services and underscore the need to expand library staffing and the programming budget. Also noted, if the library embarks on a membership campaign, these numbers can only increase.
So what now? What's the next steps? So after receiving the report from the consultant, the board took some time to digest and process the information. We adopted in principle the recommended 3-phase approach: short, medium, long-term. Within each phase, the consultants grouped actions that the board or library could consider. The following slides are a list of these recommendations, which are based on stakeholder feedback, library trends, benchmarking results, and research in the area of library resources. The board and library are committed to actioning many of these items and to also ensure that we reassess during and after each phase, taking into account municipal priorities, community growth, and the needs of the library as well. This forecasted plan spans 20 years. As I'm sure you are all aware, a lot can happen in 20 years. So that's why we are committed to looking at reassessing as we go through each of the phases. I won't spend too much time going through each of the items that are listed there, but you can see some of the short-term items that take place from 2025 to 2029. Some of them have already been actioned upon, and others are things that we're looking into during the short-term phase. Sorry. The next then talks about medium and long-term phase. And obviously those are not as detailed because we're waiting to see what happens during the short-term phase, also what happens with our community, what happens with municipality, what happens with financing, because that's always a really big portion of this, of course. But we are looking forward to the idea of responding to some really educated information, some detailed data. The report itself is much longer than the summary that we're providing to you, but we will provide you with a copy of the report after this meeting so that you can understand as things move forward why we're asking for the things that we're asking for or why we're asking for your support around particular items. If you go to the next slide for me, please. So we know the recommendations, many don't come for free, and that we will need to mount an aggressive fundraising and awareness campaign in order to solicit the support of our community, businesses, and residents. Our advocacy campaign will begin looking for champions of the library, as well as to our board, who are also champions of the library every day, in order to continue the amazing work of the library staff. The library board wants to ensure that we're also prepared for opportunities that may present themselves. So whether that's an expansion opportunity, funding donation opportunity, the board was clear that it did not want to be chasing or acting on opportunities without reliable data to guide our decision-making. GPL and its board feel that we are in a much better position today to respond to our growing Grimsby community and its demands for increased service. This report and the planned phase approach has been shared with library staff and now all of you. We intend on also providing some feedback to those who took the time to provide such thoughtful and useful information during our study. With the support of council, the library can continue its evolution into a 21st century community hub. Investing in GPL is an investment in Grimsby's growth, inclusivity, and quality of life. Your support will help ensure that the library remains a vibrant cornerstone of the community for the next 20 years and beyond. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Ashley and Deidre. Questions or comments from council? Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Thanks for the presentation. There's a lot to think about in there, and my question is actually for Tony, not for you, because, and so I apologize, but it's related to your presentation because I'm thinking about the 2036 to 2045 long-term possible secondary branch. Do our development charges currently include library expansion as part of the development charges? And if so, what is the reserve? And if that's not a question you can answer now, maybe it's something you can give us back via email. But I'm just curious about, because I think that we included it when we revised the development charges for Grimsby on the Lake and that area. And if we did, then you know, I know that a new building would be huge and very expensive, but if we're already starting to put money aside for it and we see 20 years down the line more development happening, that can go a long way towards building that new building. So that was a lot. So if Tony, I don't know if you can answer any of that offhand or not.
Yeah, through the mayor, if you give me a couple of minutes, I'll try to pull that information up.
Through you, Mayor, while he's doing that, also I'd like to, I think that the Grimsby Public Library is very important as a third space, and there are lots of things. The evolution of the library, just in my time on council, you know, and from when I was a kid going in there and using the card catalog and doing research for essays to what it is now, and getting in trouble for not returning my books on time and getting fined 10 cents a day, which I still want my money back because when we got rid of those fines, I'm pretty sure I still owe a lot of money from the 80s. But all joking aside, we have the new Peach King Center that's being built, and it's also a community hub. I understand the importance of the library as a community hub, but we're trying to create a more public space in the Peach King Center as well. So I want to make sure that whatever we're doing is coordinated with our community services staff and our recreation staff to make sure that there's not redundancies. So has communication occurred with Sarah and with our community services staff? What are we doing to make sure that, you know, we're not duplicating spaces and services in that way? Obviously, I know the things that the library provide is quite different from, especially from a programming perspective, from what is from a passive space that would be provided at the Peach King Center. But if you want to speak to that, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there has been some conversations with Sarah about what the library could potentially do for in the Peach King, whether we have a holds locker or a kiosk, maybe a pop-up library service. There is communication to ensure that we're not duplicating services. As you've noted, our programs are free of cost, so that kind of separates us from the town services. And I think, as this report kind of highlights, there's a need for ongoing communication as things continue to evolve.
Sorry, can I add to that for 1 second? I think that the Peach King as a community hub is yet to be seen, and I agree it's going to be one. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being critical of that, but I think the extent to which it's going to be a community hub is yet to be seen. And so I think that there is some ways that both organizations or both facilities can provide something to the community that becomes that hub. So I'm not sure whether the Peach King will fall more heavily recreation, will it fall more heavily culture, different programmings that are similar to what we would do? I'm not sure yet. So I think that, as we said, going through this process, people have told us that they're looking to the library to be their community hub, so whether that's library users, that type of thing. And so, you know, there could be two, or if there is an expansion, could it then involve being out this way and joining in what the Peach King has to offer?
Last thing, Mayor, I don't know if Tony has the response, but through you, I love the idea of reconfiguring in the short term of utilizing outdoor public space, because I'm always concerned about the cost, and, you know, from a staffing perspective, if we're that far behind, that's something that obviously the board needs to consider and think about. But from a space perspective and the long-term maintenance and the construction costs, I'd like to look at every other alternative before investing millions of dollars in new facilities. So I get the other stuff, the costs are going to be the costs as far as staffing is concerned, and those are huge costs too. But I would like to, I love the approach that you're taking with the reconfiguration and the outdoor space in the short term and looking long term to see what we can do. So thank you for the presentation.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I've got about 4 questions here. And thank you for your presentation. It was really enlightening, but I think, as my colleague was alluding to, sort of how much is this going to cost? Has anybody costed this out to get a sense of how much this would cost if you were to implement these suggested changes?
So the suggested changes are rather large, and the board, in looking at some of the short-term, medium-term, long-term, are not looking to say we are endeavoring to action every single item that's on here. I think it's a matter, again, of looking at what can we do with the existing facility. Again, it is a town facility, so there's this collaboration that's going to happen as to how do we reconfigure and what do we do with that. There's also a look at, you know, if we did put other services throughout the community, is it another library, or is it, as Ashley suggested, some of these other options that allow us to take service and move it out into the community with less cost than building a new building?
So a couple things that kind of come to my mind. Schools have libraries. Can we not partner with schools in some way to expand our library availability? And I guess as a part of that, I was thinking, can we expand our author series to the new West Niagara Secondary School, which would have a lot bigger venue, for instance, for the author series, and we'll pull in perhaps a wider group. And then also, how can we generate more money? I mean, library cards are free. Could we not charge a nominal amount, $5? Something that wouldn't be too pressing for anyone, $10 for a family. And I guess lastly, have you thought about approaching, we have some people in this community who have been very large supporters of community activity. And have you looked at how any of those people could contribute and, for instance, have their name on, the Grimsby X Library, and have them fund a major expansion? So those are some of my thoughts. I wonder if you want to speak to any of them. I can remind you if they've got made a list there.
I will speak to the money portion. Yes, most of our library programs, they are free, and the town does charge for programs. But the library prioritizes free access to programs to ensure equity. Everyone can participate regardless of their income. While some programs could include a small fee for specialized workshops or premium offerings, the primary mission is community enrichment, literacy, and engagement rather than revenue generation. Charging for programs could create barriers to access, as could charging for library cards. I think one of our hallmark features is that we are a library for everyone, regardless of your income, and that I would hesitate to see any barriers introduced that could limit people in our community from accessing our services. Thank you.
Do some of the comparators charge? I mean, the reality is, we've got one source of revenue, the taxpayer. So, if we can't generate more revenue from that activity, you said you're short staff in a comparator by 4 people. That's a hefty price tag on our operating budget, let's say. So, without looking at more revenue generation, I think that's a very important side as you talk about the development of this. And so what I'd like to know, do any of our comparators that have more people and have more space, are they charging nominal fees for access? I mean, there's all kinds of ways to ensure access for those who are not able to afford access. There's lots of discrete ways. I've seen it done with kids playing baseball and not having to pay fees because you just knew some kids needed some help. So I just think that you need to look at revenue generation a lot more closely as kind of the flip side to this, because I think taxpayers are getting really frustrated, and we have all these different things that we do, and it ultimately comes from the same pocket. So I'm just trying to think of ways that we can come to some kind of compromise on achieving some of these, which are very good goals, without having to always go to the taxpayer.
So if I could take a second just to respond to that. We are looking at, how do we increase our revenue? How do we increase, trying to find, whether it's donations from individuals, whether it's sponsorship from individuals, whether that's granting. All of those things we're looking to wait until this study was done, until we endeavored upon to say, this is what we're looking for you to sponsor, donate to, et cetera. So it is absolutely within the radar of what we're looking to do. I think our author series, of course, if you start moving it outside our building, it starts costing us money and it eats at our revenue, despite the fact that it has a larger crowd that can come. Oh, sorry. But it's certainly something that we have looked into and would look into if we had a one-off event where there was a larger author that was coming to the series.
I just want to say we do pay school tax, so I think that there should be some kind of quid pro for that kind of thing.
We'll bring you along to the meeting. And certainly the other around the idea of charging for library cards. I can only speak for myself. I won't speak as the chair of the board because it isn't something that we necessarily brought back, but I think there would be several people on my board that would say, no. We will find another way in order to pay for some of these things and in order to move the revenue needle forward. But the idea of having access to the library without a fee is very important to this board. We were the board previous that got rid of the late fees, which has been a barrier to people coming back to the library. So I do appreciate all of those suggestions, and they're very good, and I think it's something that the board would absolutely look into.
Just before Councillor Sharwa, our treasurer has the answer for Councillor DeFlavio, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so to answer the question, yes, there is a library expansion project in the development charge study for $10 million. And to answer your other question regarding the development charge reserve balance for the library, it's currently at about 1.2 million.
Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. Just a few questions and some points. My first being, you were talking about the programming. Actually, before that, when you were doing your comparators, I didn't hear Lincoln on the list. I'm wondering if you can expand on why Lincoln wasn't a consideration for comparison, since they're around the same number, population-wise.
These were the comparators that were given to us by the TCI consultants. This is who they chose. We did not choose them.
Okay, that answers that. Okay, perfect, thanks. So gaps in programming. I'm just wondering, because, so you had said that in 2024, there were 5,000 roughly people using the programs, and then it shot up about 4,000 the following year. So we basically doubled in programming. Are there any gaps? Like, are there things that we could be providing that you would like to provide, but we're strapped so far?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is an excellent question. Thank you for bringing it to the floor. There are lots of things we would love to do, but as we've noted, we are 4 FTE short of our comparators, and also our programming budget is rather limited. We always look to adapt our programming to ensure that we are offering the people of Grimsby what they want. So recently we have just added a homeschool hub to our program offerings, and we have had 40 people come to that program. So like I've said, we would love to be able to offer more, just in terms of our staffing and our financial ability to do so.
Thank you. So you had talked about expansion. I think that was part of your medium or your mid-range plan. How would we expand on that site?
There were lots of ideas that came from people who participated in the survey or the focus groups about what could be done with the existing footprint that we have. We at the board have talked about it a couple of times. Certainly after we got the report, we talked about it a lot more as to what we can do. Our new CEO, Chief Librarian, has started doing some of that as far as utilizing the outdoor space a lot more, making it more usable, the back patio, which, to be honest, I didn't know was usable when I started. So it was very good that now I know. I think the other two is that if, the consultants had suggested something about a physical expansion, so a construction expansion to the back parking lot area. We were concerned, obviously, that we would lose parking spaces, but that was one of their suggestions as they looked at the footprint. Certainly, the other suggestion is there's a glass kind of atrium that houses an empty space of grass that nobody utilizes. That could be enclosed, that could be used. To be frank, and it's only a suggestion that was brought out, is that we could take the whole building if that was the idea. If we would say, hey, is there any way that we could take over the whole building and then that the art gallery would find a nice home? Those were all things that were brought up in the survey. I think, again, it's going to take some looking at what can we do. You are our landlords. And so we're looking at, what can we do to the space, and working with Sarah, working with the town as to what we can do as far as expanding what we currently have.
Thank you. So I'm going to first agree with some of the comments that Councillor DeFlavia had made. I'd like to see that we're not duplicating some of the programming. Many of us are on the Community Services Board Committee, and I know if there's more communication there about some of the gaps that that we could be providing, that would be great. I don't necessarily see. And I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. First of all, people really love the library and everything that you are doing. The meeting spaces, I don't know that we need to construct meeting spaces necessarily. I think that's kind of taken care of through other facilities in the town, and that's just an expense. And I'm just trying to be as reasonable as possible financially. But I do love the idea of kiosks, and if we can make use of other spaces that, in town properties, I think that's a great idea. I've seen those at the arenas in St. Catharines, and they're there, so people must be using them. So I think that's wonderful. My last point is just to do with the timeline. I think it's a little bit aggressive. So it's a 20-year timeline. We're undergoing our official plan right now, and that brings us to 2051. And when we're looking at the end target, it could be 51,000 by 2051. So I think if we could maybe expand on your long-term goal to kind of match up with that target, then it might be a little bit more efficient as far as reflecting the population size. But I support everything that you're saying, and I love it, and please keep us informed. I think you're doing great work. But if we can just be as efficient as possible, that would be fabulous. Thank you.
If I could take 1 second to just say this board is looking to be brave. I completely understand how some of the timelines and what's included in them are a little bold. I think if we don't start putting our foot out there, we're going to stay at the size and capacity that we currently are, and the town is going to grow. And the catch-up is going to hurt a lot more than it's going to hurt today. So what we're trying to do in being wise about this is we're trying to take them in steps, and we're trying to do them in steps so that it isn't such a large task for the library. It's not a large task for anybody that we're asking to support us, whether that's financially or in other ways. But I appreciate it, and I appreciate the support that everybody has set around the table. Thank you.
Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So I'm really happy to hear this report, and I'm really happy that you're being bold and putting it out there, because I don't think many of us in the community ever hear about the need of the library. I think the library is one of the most valued resources in our community, and I heard that time and time again, at the beginning of the term. So the community understands how important you are, and they value you probably more than anything else in this community, to be honest with you. But I don't think that we knew that there was such a need, and I don't think that without those numbers, seeing how much it's increasing, that we're seeing what's going to happen. So I love that you're being proactive instead of reactive. This is exactly the thing that you need to do, because we need to make sure that we have the services for the future generations. You're not just a library. You're a warming center. You're a program hub. You're a Wi-Fi connection. You are literally everything in this community that not everybody has access to. And, that speaks volumes. And with the programming and the free programming, there would be a lot of families that would not be able to do anything if the programming at the library didn't exist, because as the cost of living gets incredibly high, the first thing we cut out is all of the programming for our families, for our children. And because of you, they can still participate in that. You're like the emergency services of education in the community. So I appreciate that. And I think, it's really important that you're out here and you're saying, listen, we have a need. Now we understand you have a need, and now it's moving forward and saying, okay, what can we do? We can fundraise, we can do this, we can do everything we can to help. And I think that's what's important. So thank you for this information, and I hope it gets out to the community. And like you said, maybe that's personal donations, maybe you're the recipient of fundraisers and things like that, now that people are aware that there is that community. So thank you for that, and thank you for everything that you do. I have been to a few of the programs and drop-in information sessions and stuff at the library, and I can tell you that the few that I went to, overflowing, because so many people were there and you don't have the space. And the reason that people pick the library is because that's where they want to be. Yes, there are lots of other facilities to rent, but they are there because that's their chosen venue. And it's easily accessible for everybody, and it is accessible. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Councillor Howe.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. And what we haven't mentioned, we're taking, first of all, everybody knows that I'm on the library board, so I'm going to be very positive about it. But fundraising, the GLAM, everybody, you've heard the GLAM, haven't you? Well, there's a chunk of change, and that's fundraising at its top, okay, which gives a lot of benefit to the three cultural entities in this town, museum, art gallery, and obviously the library. That is a big deal, so it doesn't go unnoted and not used, with a whole lot of energy and effort being put into it. Councilor Charwa about more programs. It's no problem. I'll sit here, and it's been said, give us the bodies, and we'll give you more programs. That's exactly what it comes down to. They're all maxed out now, the ones that they're doing. And we talk about developing relationships. So far this year, one benefactor refurnished the sitting area, by the fireplace, to the tune of just over $20,000. Doesn't want to be named, but that's a benefactor who came to the library to do that. And as well, there was the other furniture to what, $2,000-3,000? Okay, and then, somebody else also for outdoor furniture. So the relationships are there. They're very important to the library, but they're trying to remain as careful as possible and not sound heavy-handed, but know that we need to replace and to supply as we go down the road.
All right, seeing no further questions, thank you very much for your presentation. Go ahead.
I just want to plug the Glam Gala one more time and give the date. So the date is November the 7th. It is for the library, the art gallery, and the museum. Tickets can be purchased online through the town's website as well as our website. There's a link that you can go to. Please come out and enjoy. It's a wonderful evening of food and music and celebrating with other people that appreciate culture. There's a silent auction as well, so we would appreciate seeing all of you and anyone else who would like to come. Thank you again for allowing us to speak.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation and the questions you answered. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the presentation? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Howe. Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that the presentation on the Grimsby Public Library feasibility study be received for information. All in favor? And that's carried. Up next, we have my report for planning and development held on October 14th, 2021. We had one item on the agenda. It was the update of the official plan. And we saw where planning staff is on the official plan, and seeing how planning is working very hard to have a Grimsby solution for our official plan and for what we have to offer for growth in the years to come. Unfortunately, over the years, we've been stifled at OLT because our official plan really wasn't as fulsome as it should have been, and it had loopholes for developers that the OLT was able to make decisions where developers could take advantage of our official plan. Well, we're looking at a Made in Grimsby solution with foresight and futuristic looks for Grimsby, that where we can control our destiny. Change is going to happen. Change is going to come, but we need to be ready for that change, and we need to have an official plan that will be solid, without loopholes, full, and so we'll be able to control our destiny. And I'm really proud of planning staff for putting together an official plan that is going to roll out in a way where we can all be proud of. There's going to be still public consultation and a view of this official plan coming up. And it's going to make Grimsby a model for the 21st century. Aspirations include walkability, green initiatives, diversity, flexibility, collaboration, communication, outreach, and incubation. It's just something that that we want a Grimsby solution to the official plan. And I look forward to it coming to council so council can see more of it. Councillor Sherwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. I watched the meeting online, and there was something in there that was presented as the Next Gen initiative, and I don't remember it having gone through council to be directed for that presentation, and it's a little bit out of the scope of where our official plan is going. It's far more aggressive, and I just wanted to make sure that receiving these minutes is not an endorsement of that Next Gen. So if somebody could possibly.
Well, we're just receiving the minutes.
Okay.
Harold, if you want to comment, you're welcome to.
Through you, Mayor, the Next Gen is a kind of umbrella description or branding for our planning's internal grappling with the work ahead for us, and it's about us being prepared for the work ahead. It doesn't actually specify any direction for Grimsby that is not that is going to be considered or proposed for anything that happens within the context of the planning department. It's actually about us optimizing our work efforts, our value statements, our charter. So it's basically a strategic planning exercise for planning that was being discussed there. And what was being presented was a kind of the context and giving it a bit of a background as to what's informing our decision making and the things that influence the way we do our jobs, the professional kind of inputs and forces that are shaping the planning in the 21st century. So there's a lot there to chew on, and there was a lot of discussion. It was a bit complicated, but I wanted to give the planning committee some insight into some of the things that are shaping and influencing the decisions that we make. So in the context of that presentation, I'm trying to remember what it was that would have been troubling. If you can recall what that was, that maybe I might be able to explain it.
Yeah, I think you can add, if you have questions or concerns for Harold, email him or meet him, and we can take it that way, because we're
Yeah,
just
that's fair.
receiving this
I
right
agree.
now. So.
Thank you.
All right, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the previous minutes? Moved by Councillor Frag, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Moved by Councillor Frag, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolve the following minutes be approved. Council, October 6, 2025. Planning and Development Committee, October 15th, 2025. All in favor? And that's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the board minutes? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Korstanji. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Korstanji. Resolved that Grimsby Public Library Board minutes of September 10th, 2025 be received. All in favor? And that's carried. Do we have any announcements this evening? Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would just like to let people know that we had an excellent session that the Green Committee had put on last Tuesday. It's available to watch on our YouTube channel. And if you go to the grimsby.ca website, you'll be able to locate it there. What we're doing is trying to inform people how best to increase our urban canopy, because it is significantly lower than what a healthy canopy should be. We're at 17% for our urban canopy. We should be at least 30%. So we put on this session, this public session. People were of course welcome to come, invited to come. And we had Jason Henry from the Vineland Research and Innovation Center, and he talked about making your soils ready. And I have to say it was absolutely fascinating presentation that he gave. I wasn't expecting it to be so fascinating, but it really, really was. And I suggest to anybody that wants to plant a tree on their property, to take a look at this, because it was so informative. And we also had Stuart McPherson from the NPCA, who talked a lot about native species and why they do well, and how you can determine what is the best species for where you want to plant, and how to make those plantings. And both presentations were absolutely excellent. So I really hope that people will come and take a look at them. And we're hoping that maybe in the spring that we can have some kind of special event for our Green Day, and that will involve trees, so subject to council's approval. So I just wanted to drive people to that part of the website, because honestly, it really was fascinating. I enjoyed it. Went on for 2 hours. I loved every minute of it. So I hope you'll come and take a look at it.
All right, any further announcements? Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out to our community services staffing for the Moonlight Market and movie that happened on Saturday. I was not there, but it sounds like it was another success, a lot of community engagement. And I just wanted to mention as well that the Grimsby Glows will be happening on Saturday, November 1st from 5 till 8. This year's event is expected to draw record numbers and robust community participation. Community services staff are working in partnership with the Rotary Club to bring returning and new events. Highlights including the pumpkin trail, carved pumpkin contest, free hot chocolate, apple cider, a dog costume event contest, live music throughout the event, balloon twisting, and a photo booth. So again, that's Saturday, November 1st from 5 till 8 at Coronation Park. Thank you.
Thank you. And to tie on Councillor Charwa's comments about 2 Saturdays from now, this Saturday coming up, the BIA is hosting a trick-or-treat costume event for children of the community. Last year, we had hundreds of people, and we're hoping to have more people. I guess there's face painting. We're offering pumpkin carving. And merchants are encouraged to be handing out candies downtown. And last year was quite the success, where many merchants had over 600 visitors into their establishment. So that runs from 10:30 till 3:30 on Saturday, and that's hosted by the BIA. And also, I'm pleased to share that the town of Grimsby has officially launched our branding project. It's an exciting opportunity for a community to help shape how we tell Grimsby's story. A community survey is now open until October 26th, and we encourage everyone to take part by visiting letstalkgrimsby.ca /new brand. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none. Can I have a mover and seconder to go into closed session? Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frick. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frick. Resolved that council move into closed session to discuss Grimsby Power Incorporated legal update pursuant to subsection 2392F of the Municipal Act and Grimsby Power Incorporated valuation report pursuant to subsection 2392J of the Municipal Act. All in favor to go into closed? And that's carried. All right. Welcome back. We're now in open session. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the information provided and closed? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolved that the information provided in closed session regarding the Grimsby Power Incorporated legal update and valuation report be received. All in favor? That's carried. All right. Yeah, if you have a resolution that you want to put forward. Put your mic on.
I'd like to suggest that we look for a two-thirds vote on that and waive the procedural bylaw and put forward a notice of motion for amending the finance terms of reference to remove mention of GPI and MPI in the reporting. I have a loosely constructed motion, if you like.
All right, so first vote is to waive the two-thirds. So you need a mover and seconder. Councillor Frake needs a seconder to waive the two-thirds. Councillor Vardy's the seconder, so that council waive two-thirds to put this resolution on the table tonight. Yeah, let's do
Could I get a
e-scribe.
recorded vote too, please?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so the two-thirds motion has been put on the floor, so you can vote e-scribe if we're going to waive it. So yes would be waiving it, no would be not. All right, so that was approved to waive the two-thirds. I have the resolution. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that council directs staff to amend Finance Committee's terms of reference to remove the reporting of GPI, NPI to the Finance Committee, and that all future reports and updates go directly to council. Does anyone want to speak to it? We have it on the floor. Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Is this all future reports regarding specific items? The GPI and MPI? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Councillor DeVoley.
My question, I guess, is to my fellow councillors. And I understand your concerns, but my question is how you envision the Finance Committee meeting its other terms of reference without having some idea of how things are going at those two entities.
All right, so other councillors want to speak, but I think the answer to that is that you find out everything at council, and then it would come to finance. So, Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. While I respect what you're doing, we're 3 years into these committees now, and it's a bit of a slap in the face to change this terms of reference at this point. We've had these conversations before. We have professionals on this committee. I would like their advice. So I'm going to be voting no.
Councillor Bart.
I guess I feel differently. I feel that the committee's role is not to necessarily to direct the town, but to really look at how does the town strengthen their, make recommendations to strengthen their processes. So I really see any discussion about our assets writ large as being a council discussion and not necessarily a finance discussion. I see the finance committee's role somewhat differently. So I'll just leave that at that.
Councillor.
I just want to address Councillor Sherwaz's comment. This is not meant to be a slap in the face. This is an opportunity for us to correct a kind of error we made when we set up these committees. And because we are the shareholders as a whole, then it should come to council. And so we all are hearing everything directly here and making the decisions here. And if we have to go into closed sessions so that the chair of finance gets particular information, we could do that. That's not a problem. So this is not a slap in the face. This is an opportunity to try and correct things so that we all share in the direct reports that are coming to us. That's all this is. And I'm sure the chair of finance is doing an absolutely dynamic job. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, and seeing no further questions or comments, I've read the resolution. Please vote by e-scribe. All right, moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that council directs staff to amend the Finance Committee's terms of reference to remove the reporting of GPI, NPI to the Finance Committee, and that all future reports and updates go to council directly. All right, that's defeated. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the letter from GPI and NPI? Yeah, that was defeated, so we move on. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the letter from GPI and NPI? Moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by, is there a seconder? Councillor Vardy. Moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by Councillor Vardy. Resolves that the letter from Grimsby Power Incorporated and Niagara Power Incorporated be received. Do you want to vote e-scribe then? All right, that's fine with me. Well, we were having trouble getting a mover and seconder, so I didn't know if it was going to be contentious. So all in favor? All right, that's carried. Is it a point of clarification? Is it?
So if we voted against GPI and NPI coming here to give us these updates, and they can't go to finance, where are we getting the updates?
Through the chair, I believe what you voted on was taking it out of the terms of reference for finance, not where they would report to. So we would still hold our regular AGM. Closed session updates based on legal advice would still come to council, but the terms of reference for finance will not change.
All right, Councillor DeVoley has moved and Councillor Howe has seconded the notice of motion on long-term financial planning. Are there any questions from council? Yes. Councillor Vardy.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment, which is basically to amend it to read in its entirety that council schedule an in-depth long-term financial planning session in the new year to take stock of long-term financial demands, revenues, and assets. Is that acceptable to the movers and seconders?
Councillor Howe, Councillor DeVoli. Councillor DeVoli.
It's a big ask.
We need to do it.
Thank you. Councillor Vardy and I had been speaking earlier about, how do we get our house in order here, right? And you can see in the notice of motion, which is now a resolution, that we have a $5 million annual under-saving that is taking place. And for those of you who might like to read the finance agenda, the last one, and unfortunately we didn't have a quorum, but the last one includes a very in-depth report by our finance director that also does some reserve and debt projections for the next 5-10 years, and based upon what has been in our long-term capital plans before, and basically has our debt increasing some $40 million and our debt payments going from about $1 million a year to about $7.5 million roughly. In addition to that, we have a WSIB liability, which we have an actuarial valuation for, that came to finance of some $1.4 million, and have been seriously investigating moving from being self-funded, which is called a Schedule 2 employer, to a Schedule 1. So we have some very large issues that are facing us, and I hear my fellow councillors when they say, we are but a year away. And it is true, we are but a year away, but the problem won't go away, and we need to start the process. And so one of the things that clients would come to me and ask is, so how do we improve the bottom line? What do we need to do? And I used to always say the answer is easy, but implementation is very hard. We need to look at all our sources of revenue, and in our case, I think we'd like to touch the property taxes last if we possibly can. We need to look at all of our expenses. We need to look at all our capital assets. And there is a methodology to how this would be done. Our staff have been doing some of those things, so it's not that they haven't. But I would suggest that, before we just have a big session, that we perhaps ask staff to flesh out how they could educate and bring council up to date on what the challenges are that are facing us financially, both relatively soon and in the long term.
So
and
maybe,
then by all
maybe
means
I can
after
stop
that.
you there, because I don't think we need to really flesh this out. We can obviously say it's not a friendly amendment, so you need a notice of motion. So why don't we just vote on this, and then a notice of motion can be added to a subsequent council meeting to move forward with Councillor Vardy's recommendations. Yeah, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor DeVoli, second by Councillor Howe, whereas the province of Ontario has defined council's role to be that of identifying issues to be dealt with, determining the facts of the issue, giving direction to staff to research issues and available options, and report back to council with recommendations, and in many cases refer to a committee of council to take advantage of the committee's expertise in a particular area. And whereas council created a financial standing committee and appointed lay members to the finance committee to consider and report to council on financial planning and long-term stability and sustainability of finances, financial reporting and monitoring and budget strategy for considerations for the future budgets, investment reporting, and risk management, including reporting from the entities of Grimsby Power Incorporated and Niagara Power Incorporated. And whereas the town undertook an asset management study and from that learned that it needs to save approximately $5 million more each year than it currently is doing in order to replace its existing tangible capital assets when they reach the end of their useful lives, and whereas it is important to gather data, investigate, and evaluate all possible solutions to this very large problem now, and whereas Financial Committee recommended that Council approve an estimated valuation report of Grimsby Power Incorporation, the town's third largest asset, to more fully understand the town's investment, and whereas the report will contain critical information and be part of the data gathering process to enable Finance Committee to provide advice to Council on its most critical financial planning issue, and whereas a common municipal practice to ask individuals to sign non-disclosure agreements in sensitive circumstances. Therefore, be it resolved that the Finance Committee lay members be provided a copy of the estimated valuation report of GPI conditional upon them signing a non-disclosure agreement following the receipt of this report by council. Recorded vote, please. All right, that was defeated. All right, we move to Councillor Sharwal has moved and Councillor Korstanchi has seconded the notice of motion on a right-of-way bylaw. Are there any questions from council? Seeing no questions from council, moved by Councillor Sharwal, seconded by Councillor Korstanchi. Whereas oil and fuel spills along with other debris or fouling of public roadways present a clear safety risk to motorists, cyclists, and pedestrians, whereas the Town of Grimsby's current bylaws do not provide specific authority or mechanisms to regulate or address the fouling of public roadways caused by oil spillage or similar hazards, whereas the Ontario Ministry of the Environment places onus on municipalities through their bylaws to address issues of road fouling and ensure that such hazards are properly managed and enforced, whereas Section 11.2 of the Municipal Act 2001 grants municipalities the authority to pass bylaws respecting highways, including the health, safety, and well-being of persons, and specifically to regulate matters related to the use of municipal right-of-ways, whereas the absence of a dedicated right-of-way bylaw limits the town's ability to respond effectively, hold responsible parties accountable, and proactively protect public safety on municipal roads. Therefore, be it resolved, the staff report back on creating and implementing a right-of-way bylaw to regulate road fouling, working within the right-of-way, and any other actions that may put motorists or pedestrians in harm's way. All in favor? That's carried. Councillor Vardy, you have a notice of motion. Can you please read it?
Whereas Beamer makes up more than 50% of the Grimsby canopy and is the only conservation area in Niagara that is fully accessible without a car, and whereas Beamer is a thriving biodiverse environment and a natural playground with a natural water feature and natural greeters, birds, animals, etc. Whereas in 2026, the MPCA is about to implement a Beamer Conservation Area Management Plan that cites improvements and recreation. And whereas these improvements and recreation are not described in any detail, and to date, the MPCA has not provided any clarity of what might be considered for improvements in recreation. And whereas the community of Grimsby has expressed reservations about the management plan and its lack of specifics, and the community is concerned that Beamer will morph into a park with park-like infrastructure and improvements that are not aligned with the passive natural environment that is Beamer. And whereas Beamer is a conservation area stewarded by those who visit it, hikers, walkers, Bruce Trail volunteers, and wildlife. Whereas some neighbors in the immediate vicinity of Beamer are of one voice that Beamer remain a natural space. Therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Grimsby requests the MPCA to provide written clarification regarding improvements and recreation initiatives for Beamer Conservation Area prior to finalizing of a management plan, and that priority be given to keeping Beamer a passive recreation environment. I acknowledge that this notice of motion will be given consideration at the November 3rd, 2025 council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Vardy. The next council meeting is scheduled for November 3rd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Can I have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Vardy. Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 25-61 and that same be read a first time, considered and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Good night, everyone. Meeting is adjourned. Go Jays.